I'm Jordan Carpenter. I graduated in 2021 with a major in marketing and minors in information systems and economics. I am currently an account manager at Acorn, the influence company, where I'm managing our lead client, Mondelez, and a few others there.
And this week, a year and a half into the job, is celebrating her 4th promotion. Well done.
I'm Jonah Rapert. I work for Andy at BigQuest actually, and so I have the pleasure of working with Andy on a daily basis, and with that I've been able to work with Rod, Stephanie, Molly, and Brent, and I work as a senior account executive and just help Andy with all the different projects we work on at BigQuest.
Good afternoon. My name is Carson Robinson. I graduated in this last May, so I think besides Ethan and probably Morgan, we are the freshest faces out of Walton College. So I had Molly's class in fall of 2021. I graduated with my double major in supply chain and marketing. So I know Stephanie's, she's smiling at me back there because she knows. And then I currently work for Walmart as a merchandising analyst within a rotational program to essentially prepare us to become an associate merchant. So, yeah.
Right. Hey guys, I'm Luke Rapert. Well, I'm second oldest son. I graduated in 2020, so 2 years removed. Currently, I was a marketing major, had minors in econ and legal studies. Currently working as an account executive for VMLY&R Commerce here, working with GSK/Haley on the Walmart team.
And I'm Ethan. I have not actually graduated out of Walton just yet. I have 9 hours this fall because I graduated in May with ad PR journalism from the university. Whenever I was a sophomore, I realized, oh wow, I think I want to get into Walton. And so I'm a little bit finishing up my marketing right now, but I'll have a marketing major, management minor, and I am a field sales and marketing representative at Tektronic Industries, which is a power tool supplier in pretty much Walmart and the Home Depot exclusively.
And if you subscribe to Hogs Illustrated, Ethan is the one that's writing all the scouting reports on football and is interviewing all the opposing coaches, including Bobby Petrino.
Me and Bobby talked for a little bit.
Perfect. So I'd like to say that I did not anticipate going into teaching for a living, and so the first thing that I did when I started thinking about what I wanted to look like is I turned to one of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis. I love this quote: the next best thing to being wise is live in a circle of those that are. And so what they'll be talking about is sort of what that circle looks like. I want to stress right at the first, though, that when they take my class, it's a traditional class in that there are readings, articles, 3 tests, all the normal things that come in a class. What I've asked them to talk about from their perspective are the extra things they do on top of that. So I gave a test this morning to my students, and then they're doing all these other things in addition to it, and this is what I love about my Rapert marketing class. So we'll just be going through each of these, and I believe we're starting with Jonah.
Yeah, again, so I'm Jonah Rapert, so I am Molly's son, so I'll try to be unbiased when I speak about her class. I just say a few nice things like coming home for Thanksgiving. As I kind of toe that line and talk about the crowdsourcing pillars that she uses, to me this is something that makes it really stand out. And it was an effort, I'd say it's one of the biggest challenges in academics. You talk about trying to marry academic theory and then real world experience. And with that, what she does that helps her class stand out, and it goes, as we said, for the Walton College as well, is just she sends out a survey at the start of the year, and it goes out to I think 500 people, and it goes to I think all continents except Antarctica. So we'll have to remedy that, but we're getting there. And it kind of offers with that. She sends out the survey and she gets a ton of feedback just on what people in the industry are actually looking at, what the challenges really are, and articles that they're reading, as well as the podcasts that they're listening to, and different assignments they could be working on. And so you get a global perspective because you get all the people around the world answering. You also get a perspective of different levels of experience. I answered it as somebody 2 years out of college. Andy filled it out as well, and he's obviously built a company, worked as an executive at one of the largest companies in the world. So you get all these different levels of perspective. And I think that's really key for students at the University of Arkansas and helps them stand out. And all that to really just be said, to build the curriculum around that, it really ends up playing to two big things. One, it sets a standard that at the University of Arkansas, at the Walton College of Business, that you'll be exposed to real industry leaders, but more importantly, industry leaders that care, that actually want to give their time and invest in students, which I think is pretty uncommon. And that kind of leads to the second point would be it builds confidence for the students, that when you get done with your formal education, you've actually been exposed to like what real people in industry are looking at and the problems they're facing. So you don't go into an interview and you just think that you're underexposed or uneducated and you know what people are talking about. So I think that's something that really makes your class stand out.
Thank you. You can come home for Thanksgiving. So when I had Corey in class, I was making the transition to articles, and I found that I was only giving the students the articles that I like to read. And so I created this idea of an advisory board that Carson is my newest member of. I'm very excited because during the semester, she was sending me articles as a student. And I just thought this is somebody that I really want to stay in touch with. So Carson.
Yeah, so, just like we, as the advisory board, you guys are providing insights, just a second ago, I heard you guys talking about, strategies that we're going to continue to implement for the Walton College of Business. We have that same, idea for Molly's class, in that, previously we talked about, working from a textbook, but I think pretty much everyone up here would agree with me that, a textbook is no longer really the traditional norm, I would say, for learning, and that's because, most of the stuff that we're reading out of the textbook, we can get right here from your laptop or the phone that's in front of you faster than the textbook that's actually probably 4 or 5 years behind. So, something that's really interesting about our advisory board is that you have real-time people sending Molly, myself included, these articles, these podcasts, project ideas. Hey, have you heard about this that's going on in our industry? And turning around and that very next Monday or Tuesday for her lecture, being able to talk about it versus looking at the textbook. You've got, okay, well, this is what the textbook says, and I'll derive my lecture off of that, whatever. But the advisory board is important to this course because you've got people who genuinely care, because everybody that's on this board has had the class and or a connection to Molly. So you don't just have anybody, out here in Northwest Arkansas, or anybody out here, in the retail industry just sending you whatever they find is important. But they know that whatever it is that they're sending is going to be A, utilized, but B, actually valued, not just by her, but by the students as well. So super cool opportunity. I'm excited to be on it as well. So.
And I put in your packets a copy of this paper. Brent talked about not knowing when to let go of something, so I try to measure every semester. I give the students a list of what we did in the class. Whatever came in at the bottom is gone, and we try something new the next semester. And then we measured this to see how students felt about learning through an advisory board member as opposed to a textbook, and so you can see that in your packet as well. Jordan, where are they now?
Yes, so I would say that one of the hardest parts about job searching as a senior is just knowing what kind of job opportunities are out there for college graduates with a marketing degree. So the Where Are They Now program that was developed was created to give students a better idea of what kind of jobs are out there for them, and they can get an inside look at what recent students are doing. So how it works is Dr. Raper will reach out to former students to create a 2 to 3 minute long video showcasing the company they work for and their day-to-day responsibilities. She will then share these videos with her class. She will share one each week, so it totals up to about 15 videos. And then after each video, the students will create a LinkedIn post where they share what they learned from the video, and they can also make connections with former students and professionals in the Rayford marketing community. As we know, COVID has resulted in a lot of internships going to remote work. So many students have been stripped of the opportunity to work in an actual office space and experience company culture firsthand. So the Where Are They Now program gives them the opportunity to experience it virtually, and they can see the layout of the business all the way down to the snack room, which is what I focused on in my video. But more importantly, it gives them the confidence boost that they need to be able to talk to these companies if they visit them at a career fair. It can give them pointers on what they need to be looking for when they are going into job searching. And in my case, it helped me figure out what I was most passionate about and what I wanted to do. So on this slide, you can see a couple screenshots from the video that I created this semester. We have creative freedom when we're working on them, but I chose to focus on a few of the things that I was most curious about my senior year. So in my video, I shared what Acorn Influence is and what we do within the influencer marketing industry. I shared some of the content that influencers have created for our clients. That way, the students could see what the final product was that we were working towards. And Acorn is a hybrid company, so in that third picture, you can see that working from home isn't always as glamorous as we'd like to think it is. So I had to include my coworkers, but I also gave them a tour of the Acorn office in Rogers. And then the most important piece for me was company culture when I was job searching. So I really tried to hone in on that in my video as well and share why that was so important to me and how I found a unique company culture at Acorn and why I landed there. And now, after Dr. Rapert shared my video with her class a few weeks ago, I've had multiple students reach out to me wanting to learn more about internship opportunities for even the spring semester early on, post-graduation opportunities, and wanting to learn more about the influencer space in general, since it does just continue to keep growing.
So I had a student several years ago that I think some of you know, Amanda Rosen Bailey. She started at Saatchi and now at VML, and I was talking with her about how it's hard to really understand what your passion is, like Jordan was able to find out. And she said, you know what, I do this thing for executives, and why don't you let me try it with your students? So when I mentioned that I imposed on Jeff just recently, he was out in the Greek theater meeting with small groups of my students and discussing their values, purpose, etc. So Ethan will tell you a little bit more about that.
Yes, so like Molly said, her and Amanda kind of came together and more of that just industry influence on the class, and we're discussing how you can really drill in with students, like how to utilize the things that you find the most valuable, what gives you purpose, and just how to create deliverables in your workplace to kind of demonstrate those values and those purposes just outwardly. And so Amanda and Molly formed groups of executives, some colleagues to pair with students, and students just really drilled into those. They dived really deep into like, what are my values? What do I find most important? So like, for example, one executive discussed how he really likes data-driven. He really values data, so he so when someone tries to persuade him to do something like the data, he values data shown to him to persuade to do that. And so really what this was getting at was for Molly's students is just to really dig into what do I find the most important and how can I create deliverables that will help me in interviews, help me just with coworkers, how can I take those things that I find passion in and use those for my benefit.
So at the end of last semester when I did a survey of my students to measure what was effective, the top comment they gave was they felt they were part of the RAB marketing community. So I thought, well, let's see if we can really blow that out in even a different way. So Carson will tell you about our new add-on that's taking place next week.
Yeah, so following the values project that Ethan kind of just brought up is we have this really awesome opportunity. So with as large of a student base that we have here in RAB marketing, we actually have enough that volunteered from a survey that she just recently sent out, that we have up to 5 people reviewing each student's project that they're going to be reviewing with Jeff and some of the other people as well. And something that I thought was really interesting whenever you sent me, the email about it and kind of what it was going to be about, and what's expected of you in the evaluation part, is how much our students lack confidence. We went through 2 years, I think each and every single one of us up here actually went through a 2-year period where we either weren't seeing another student that wasn't on the other side of a webcam or on a social media platform, and that translates directly into the workforce. And I think a lot of people would agree with me that we're still seeing that kind of social gap, if you want to kind of call it, of our students don't really feel prepared. I know I was literally just joined the workforce, full time 2 months ago, I still don't feel prepared. I still come every day and think, oh, like, was I supposed to have learned that, in college? And the reality is yeah, but, we have to use these kinds of projects to listen to our students, but also use that feedback that we're getting and continue to prepare our students as they keep coming into the workforce. So I'm super excited to be a part of that project and really just get to listen and help connect that industry gap.
So you can search for the Rayport Marketing hashtag on LinkedIn, and you're going to see what the students are posting and then what past students are commenting. And it's thanks to people like Jeff, Amanda, Hannah Brunner from VML, and also Ashley Huffman as well. So Ethan had an interesting thing happen when he did his values project.
Yes, so we read an article all focused on identity theory, which is it was an article by Americus Reed, who's at Wharton, which is Penn, right?
Yes.
Penn, and the whole concept of identity theory is just, if there's a brand that has become part of your identity, it's like a kind of an unbreakable competitive advantage. Like it's what you want to get to as a brand, where your brand is so ingrained in somebody's life that it's become a part of who they are. And so we kind of had to identify what might be brands that have become part of our identity. So for me, I was like, I've spent my whole life in the state of Arkansas. The Razorback logo, like, nobody's taking that from me. I mean, it's a part of who I am at this point. And so we put together a post on LinkedIn, at least I did, and I think the whole class did. And I just broke down kind of, I thought about things that I found identity theory with. I think another one for me was my church, because I'm just a tight-knit community that I'm very much ingrained in. And so I just kind of broke down his article, some things that stood out to me, and I tagged him in it, and I kind of didn't think anything else of it. And then I wake up the next morning, and we used a Remind, some texting service in our class, and Molly, I had like a flood of messages from Molly. She's like, did you see America's commented on your thing? He blah, 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 blah. And I checked it, and Americus was blown away with that we were using his stuff in our class. And so now he's incorporated the same project with his MBA class.
Yes.
At Wharton. So I thought it was cool that, just from the project that we did in our class, I instantly got a connection with somebody across the country.
And it was fun. He asked permission to download all the students' values assignments that they did for you, Jeff. And then he gave them to his MBA class, and they had to read a stranger's values and decide what brand would best connect with them and why. And that became an exercise in his class. So I love that it moved beyond us. So Morgan's going to talk a little bit about this community and how we bring it all together with Instagram.
Yes, so Molly created a course Instagram, really with the purpose to not only get to showcase the course, but also to connect those current students with her former students. Personally, I think that she may have actually cracked the code on how to get students to actually read announcements, right? So they may not be reading their emails, but there's probably a good percentage that they're scrolling through Instagram. But all jokes aside, I think it's a really great platform that she's created. Just to keep current students engaged on what's upcoming in the course, articles that we're reading currently, and really to loop in those former students into that mix as well. I know when I was in the class, I was able to engage with a couple of former students, even a guest speaker on one of the posts that she had done about what we were doing in the course. So I think it's a really great way to just reiterate that Rayport marketing family of bringing former and current students all together. She also utilizes it to really celebrate student successes. So I've seen on multiple occasions her post about students' small businesses, trying to encourage other students to kind of check out those businesses. And then if you actually look on the screen, so in the bottom right-hand corner, 2 of her students actually won thesis awards, and so she was able to utilize that platform to celebrate their success.
And you're by default Rayport Marketing family, so feel free to jump in and comment on that as well. We're rounding the corner, and Luke is going to talk about one of my favorite aspects, the guest speakers.
Yeah, so guest speakers, pretty great. There's a lot more guest speakers in this class than there are in a lot of typical classes, and it's not just a one-day event, not just, oh, you show up, oh, there's a guest speaker that day. There's stuff leading up to it, you have the guest speaker, and then there's activities that like relate to it, engage with it afterwards. And so a lot of great ones. One of my favorite staples, Jeff Metzner came in, he would talk about P&G. And so what you do. Bring a table full of P&G products, and yeah, a lot of them, and we talked through, oh, which one's Boone, which one's busted. The students would have to guess, we'd bring a product up, guess if a Boone or busted, and then talk through the details about why it succeeded or why it didn't. Talked about the process that went behind creating the product, how it's marketed, who it's marketed to, what exactly are the steps that went right with that, what went wrong, and talking, bring it together into like these core values that really, teach you how to successfully market a good product here. And so it's just a lot of examples, and then great benefit of it is if you spoke up and talked about it, you take the product home. So, so that was a fun one. But it's, always a different selection of guest speakers every year to make sure they are relevant, make sure they are teaching real world advice that is applicable to students, and it's mixed into the course. So they'll be related to a lot of the articles that the advisory committee has selected. There'll be readings that prep for the guests. We'll even have like a video of past students that'll be like, hey, you have a guest speaker coming up, here's how you get the most out of it. Like, do this, this, and this, and it gives you a little intro of how to get the most out of hearing from this real world speaker. And then you tie it down with a LinkedIn deliverable where you make a post about it, explain some of the details, and one that gets some good content on your LinkedIn that potential employers will see. It thanks the guest speaker and engages them after the fact. Then it also helps build connections, and a lot of times the guest speaker will even that'll form a connection. I know people in the class have gotten jobs with guest speakers because they've done great follow-ups and made an effort after that. So very real world applicable, and not just the bare minimum bringing in a guest speaker to fill a day of class.
So Jonah will talk about our certification process.
Yeah, so I guess first I talked with my wife boss, and now I'll talk about my boss. And so this is actually kind of run through Andy and Big Quest, as well as the help of Karen. And this is a SAM badge, which I won't go into the details of exactly what that is, but it's a way for students to go through, learn skills, go do activities that will give them a badge that they can share with industry, that will then connect them, and then they're looking for jobs. And so with this particular one, Andy kind of handcrafted the curriculum himself, and it's focused on customer centricity and the power of observation. And with that, students go through store walks, they go listen to a couple podcasts that Andy recommends, and ultimately it gives them 10 tasks that they go and do, and it just gives them real world experience. So when they get out and they get an interview, they're like, what did you learn in school? They're not saying, well, I took a test and took a multiple choice test. They can say, I went in a store walk with the help of Andy Murray. I went with a store walk and I ran it by Molly and everybody involved. And it's just a great way for students to have an experience that, one, they truly learn from, and two, they can then easily connect with the industry. And Andy can also kind of socialize it through his own network afterwards and say, these are students that have learned curriculum that I shared with them. So it's another great opportunity for RAB marketing students to connect with the industry.
And I'll say, I can't really remember many college professors that I had other than Deb Ashton, but I think, can you imagine being a 21-year-old and you've got Jeff Metzner coming in to talk about brand building, and Andy Murray meeting in small groups with you, or coming into the class, or reading an article that Rich has sent. I think it's just a way to, again, give the students confidence, and the certification process does that. So Morgan is going to close us out with the store walks.
Yes, so this is one of my favorite projects when I was a student in Molly's class. So it actually started 7 years ago with Jara Toms, who was kind of collaborating with Molly. She was a former student, now actually works for Walton, which is really cool. But with this project, what students do is, prior to going on a store walk, we would be assigned to one of 4 categories, and then we would dive into research, read articles. Last year in the course, we actually went to the competitors' stores to figure out what tactics they were using within those categories. So we do a lot of research prior to that store walk. And then this year, actually, so there's 4 categories, like I mentioned. So pet, prepared foods, toy, and wine. And so it's about 5 students per store walk, and those executives really get to kind of own that store walk and kind of get to structure it in their way. I know, is Melody in here?
She's not.
She's not? Okay, darn. So I know she's kind of over that pet category, and so she's been a huge help with that store walk. So wanted to thank her, but maybe we can just pass along that thank you. So when I was a student, I actually got to do the toy categories. So we got to walk around with Erin Fish, who was the merchandising director over the toy category. And I think she brought along with her like 6 other executives on that store walk. And so really just think that speaks volumes about, not only this awesome Northwest Arkansas community that we're in, that people, executives who are busy people are so willing to donate their time, but also to the community that Molly has really built, pulled together to make this course so great. So that was an incredible store walk that I got to go on. And then prepared foods is actually with Sam's, and then wine talks through wine accessories, adult beverages, and then the wines as well. So Molly actually did research to figure out if this was an effective use of time. And if you go to the next slide, so it's pretty crazy to see students overwhelmingly chose this project over just reading out of a book. And speaking from experience, I still remember things that those executives told me within those store walks. Probably wouldn't have remembered it if I had just read it out of a chapter book, but being able to be in that aisle, see those products, interact with not only Walmart executives, but also the supplier side as well. I forgot to mention that. So both sides are kind of coming to those store walks. So getting to interact with those executives is just such a really cool experience and really kind of instills that knowledge in those students.
So 3 years ago, we were on a store walk at Pleasant Grove, and the manager came running over to me and said, "You have to leave. You have 5 minutes. You have to leave." And I said, "Is something wrong?" And he said, "We have a surprise visit with Doug McMillan." And I said, I promise, I think he would like this. I think he'd be happy." And he said, "I can't take the risk." And I said, "I think you're gonna have to trust me on this." And sure enough, we crossed paths with Doug doing his store walk, and that was a memorable moment that we had. So, Jordan.
Yes, so this is a big number, I'm sure you can see. This semester that I was in Dr. Rickert's class, there were 495 executives that touched the course in some way. So we had the initial crowdsourcing. There were 15 advisory board members for the course, now including Carson. There were 15 Where Are They Now videos. There were 4 executives assisting with the Values Project. There were interactions on Instagram and LinkedIn. There were 15 executives, assisting with the store walks, and 5 guest speakers throughout the course. And all of this was happening while the students were taking their tests. They were reading current articles and publications selected by the advisory board and Dr. Rickert, and doing general coursework as students would normally do. So you can see huge number here. We are interacting, or students are interacting with so many people in the Northwest Arkansas area and across the country. So they're really getting exposed to a lot of different people, a lot of different executives, and a lot of different positions, so they can take that knowledge and then run with it once they graduate.
So I'm gonna put Luke on the spot for closing remarks.
All right. So I have, if I were to describe the course in 2 words, it's not normal. I've had 2 classes throughout college that just stood out to me as just clearly different and just stand out in my mind as just different experiences than everything else in college. One was Rich Lawrence's class. Kind of 2 elements that worked for both my mom's and Rich's classes are just a different way of thinking in class and in person. And then the second one is going out of your way outside of class to make it more beneficial for the students, and going out of your way, going the extra mile. Rich, like a leadership class, I've recommended it to countless people. It just gives you a different way of thinking about literally the world, but also after, when I was in my job search afterwards, which was incredibly helpful, not only connecting me with people, but also just talking through my options, talking through what I value. And so it's a unbiased shout out there, you know, it's genuine because he's not my mom. And then the second one in the same way is my mom's class, where how many years have you been teaching this course?
20 now.
20 now.
20.
Do you know how much ridiculous amounts of time you would save if you taught the same material year by year by year, had a textbook, or just
Can't
like
imagine.
did it, but just going the extra mile for the in-class experience of giving people just the benefit of real-world experience, real-world perspectives, tying in all these different people. Like I hate communicating and like tying big groups of people to do anything, and she does it every single year with so many different people to give people a different experience that benefits them, not just in the classroom, but that they can actually take and apply to the real world. We did a project with Kellogg's where, you know, this whole process, working with, you know, actual members there and presenting research that they actually used. And so it's just a real world experience that can't be simulated by different assignments or group projects. And the other one is the work outside of class to benefit students. Most selfless person I've ever met. I heard stories growing up from different people who just spoke so highly of my mom and how much she helped them in their career, in their personal life, and whatever it was. And I didn't realize until I got further in life and got to college that is not normal. That is not what, you know, people do. And so just hearing kind of story after story, and then experiencing it for myself, the way she's helped so many of my friends, so many people like I don't even know. I'd like hang out in her office in between class periods, and people would just stop by hoping to see her just to come talk about whatever life they had going on, because she just made that kind of intentional impact on students. And so those are my closing remarks, just the differentiation of going the extra mile to make it an unbelievable in-class experience and then benefiting people outside the classroom.
You can come home for Thanksgiving. You can see why I did not want to leave this season of life. I think we have a couple minutes if anyone has questions for any of them, or we can jump into our honors discussion, which is very short.
How many students are in like a class a semester?
Such a good question, and I am so blessed to have Matt Waller as our dean because he caps my class. So I might typically have 36 students in a class. My class no one here is from University of Florida, are they? My class at University of Florida, capstone marketing class, has 1,200 students in it. And they operate that class in a 300-seat classroom, so you go every fourth week to class and watch the rest on TV. So, Gator Nation.
And that plays into exactly kind of what I was saying, is that capping out the class, I just sort of remember the reason she does that and why Matt would allow her to do that is because she's willing to make intentional efforts with each one of those. If you want to have like a relationship with her beyond the classroom, it's a small number. If you make any sort of effort, it will happen and it'll be hugely beneficial. And so that's why smaller numbers work for her.
So because of that small number, is it competitive to get in? Like, is there, you're obviously turning away students?
Yes.
Okay.
I hated taking 8 a.m. classes, but I had heard enough about Molly's class that whenever I saw that the 9:30 was full, and I was like, I will wake up at 8 because I heard so many good things about her class. I said I will do it, but it is. I feel like it's competitive. I mean, I was like,
I've had countless friends being like, hey, can you get me into your mom's class? Yeah. My hands are tied, her hands are tied. She'd love to, but
I didn't ever realize it until their oldest brother Jace he tried 3 semesters to get in, and he finally got in. He was like the last seat of his graduating semester, and so I was relieved. Yes.
Comment and a question first for the 6 speakers. You all did awesome. Congratulations. As a former college student of a long time ago, I was in the normal class, not the not normal. I appreciate the not normal approach. That's the approach we take in our company, our values. So that's my comment. You guys did awesome. I'm kind of wondering how I can retire and go be a teacher.
Yeah.
I've got your answer in about 3 slides.
Well,
so.
it came up a meeting or two ago, but my question is, I'm on a guest speaker list for, I'm not going to get his name right, but Craig Steiger.
Craig
Geiger. Got half of it right. Is it possible for, if I'm able or you accept me to be put on that list, or is it
100%.
very competitive, or?
Jeff knows this. I'm very territorial about my guest speakers, but man, anyone that is giving their time to Walton, like you all are, I'd be honored to have you in there.
Okay.
And there are also other ways to be involved. When Luke mentioned the project that really turned his mind on CPG, it was with Craig Geiger.
Yeah, he's levels above me with personality.
He's levels above the Tony the Tiger hat,
No
the whole
doubt.
bow tie.
My daughter had a campus tour a couple months ago, and she had a chance to meet him, and she could not get a word in. And he wanted to give me feedback, and I'm not sure I give him that feedback yet, because you want him to share all that. He has so much to share,
Yes.
like obviously we do as well. So,
Craig's amazing, and he is the new head of our Masters in Marketing program that's coming online. So imagine that energy being poured into the Masters program. We're very excited.
so I'm speaking to his class later on this fall. If I'm allowed to, or if there's a wait list, or I like to
I'd love to
figure
talk
out.
with you, and I'll find out when you're speaking so I can come by and say hi.
Okay.
I would love
And you
to.
can grade me, do a survey on me too.
Yeah.
Perfect. Rich he critiques me in the middle of my class when he speaks. I left it, he said, can I get a cup of coffee? And mistakenly I left. And I come back and he's got students rating me on a scale of 1 to 10. And then he said, who gave her the 6? Come up and explain it.
Non-traditional.
I would add one comment, again, echoing, great job by all, that as someone who hires people like you and likes to grow talent and seek talent, it's great when talent's reaching for the sun and not still in the dirt. You know, that you kind of give yourselves a head start, you give us as hiring people a head start, you know, by already heading in that direction.
Thank you. I want to jump into this, but Judith, sorry to do this. Can I impose on one group picture here of my crew?
Are you still
I'm so
recording?
proud of
Do you want me to turn it off?
Rob, do you mind turning it off? If it's
Would
recording.
require me to know how to do that.